Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Brandy Colbert is the award-winning author of Little and Lion, Point, Finding Yvonne, and the forthcoming, but also here, Revolution of BIRDIE Randolph. Her short fiction and essays have been published in several critically acclaimed anthologies for young people. She's on faculty at Hamline University's MFA program in writing for children and lives in Los Angeles. Jade Chang is the author of The Wangs vs. the World. The Wangs has been named a New York Times Editor's Choice as well as a Best Book of the Year by BuzzFeed, Elle, and NPR, and was awarded the VCU Cabell First Novelist Prize. So please welcome Brandy Colbert and Jade Chang.
Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay, I don't know what to say at these things still, so I'm going to make Jade do all the hard work. But this is my fourth book, The Revolution of BIRDIE Randolph. I guess I could tell you if I had any inspiration behind it, but would that ruin your questions?
I mean, say whatever
you go with the flow, Jade.
Right now.
Yeah, you go with the flow. Yeah. I don't. That's why we're good together. Yeah, so I didn't draw from any personal experience with this, but it is set in Chicago, and so I have a lot of friends here from my past who knew me before I moved to Chicago. I was miserable in Chicago, but I found it extremely inspiring, I guess, in a weird way. I love writing about it. I love visiting, but I will never live there again. So I wanted to write about this family sort of living in close quarters in Logan Square, which is my favorite neighborhood, but also dealing with addiction, which I just think is not really something that society really talks about in a fair, balanced way, and also especially black families. I'm sure this will catch up to me soon and someone will complain, but I keep saying, in my family, I have a huge family on both sides. I have 21 aunts and uncles. I have 60 first cousins. It's weird. But, with those odds, someone is dealing with addiction. And every time you hear someone talk about it, it's like, oh, well, so-and-so always has a beer in their hand. Or, he's drunk again. And it's like, well, is there something there we need to discuss? But nobody ever wants to discuss it. So I was like, I'm going to write a book where we just talk about it. What else does it have? It has family secrets and first love. Some people are calling it a romance novel. I never try to write a romance novel, but I also don't try not to write romance into it. That's a little something about it. I'm going to read just a little bit from the first chapter, and then I will let Jade get to it. All right, chapter 1. A strange woman is smoking on my front stoop. Actually, it's the stoop of my mother's hair salon. We live in the apartment upstairs, but my mom and Ayana make their clients go down the street to smoke. None of them would ever sit right here in front of the door. Maybe she just needs a place to sit. This is Chicago. We're in Logan Square, near the California Blue Line stop. People are walking by constantly. She takes a drag just as she notices me standing a few feet away, watching her. She exhales and smiles and lifts her hand in greeting. I give her a tight smile. This is Chicago. And quickly squeeze past her on the stoop, shutting the door to our stairway firmly behind me. I'm in the kitchen getting a drink of water when I hear footsteps on the stairs and, a few moments later, the front door opening. It's too early for my father to be home. I guess Mom needed to run up for something. Dove? I freeze. That's not my mother. How could I have forgotten to lock the front door? And then I turn around and see the woman from the stoop standing in the doorway, and I drop my glass. It shatters at my feet. Water splashes over my ankles and the tops of my school loafers. I back up, pressing myself against the kitchen sink. I don't look at it, but I'm very aware that my hand is within reach of the knife block. Oh. She takes in my frightened face, holds up her hands. It's okay, you're Dove, right? I'm Carlene. I stare at her, wondering if my mother would be able to hear me scream downstairs over the music and blow dryers and incessant chatter of the shop. How does this woman know my name? I'm your aunt. I frown, and then my mouth drops open as I remember that my mother has a sister. She's her only sibling, and I haven't seen her in so long I'd forgotten I have an aunt on that side. Mom doesn't talk about her much. Never, really. Aunt Carlene? She smiles, and I wonder if I'll see my mother in it, but I don't. Thick black Marley twists hang past my aunt's shoulders. Her eyes are tired but friendly. Remember me? Just barely. Her smile fades a little. Well, it's been a long time. You've grown so much, she says almost wondrously, her eyes roaming over me as if she's trying to match the Dove she used to know with the one standing in front of her. I want to ask her exactly how long it's been, but something in her eyes tells me not to. Instead, I say, I'm 16. I only have 2 more days left of sophomore year. My hands are still clenched into fists, even though I'm pretty sure she is who she says she is. I know. She takes a couple of steps forward, so she's standing fully in the kitchen. The cigarette smoke clings to her clothes or her fingers, or maybe both, and it's not a good smell, but I try to pretend like it doesn't bother me. 17 next February, right? Right. I smile back at her, but I'm surprised she remembers. I didn't think she knew any more about me than I know about her, which is pretty much nothing. Are you visiting for a while? I am. She pauses, then says, I don't know how long, but I'm hoping your mother will let me work in the salon while I'm here. You know how to do hair? Girl, who do you think taught your mama? Just then, I hear feet on the stairs again, thundering up. The front door bursts open, and then my mother's voice. Birdie? Birdie, my aunt echoes. We're in the kitchen, I call back. Then, to Aunt Carlene, that's her nickname for me. You know, a play on the whole Dove thing. Mom stops abruptly in the doorway. What's wrong, I ask, staring at the worry lines etched into her forehead. Nothing. She lets out a long breath as she looks back and forth between us. It's been a while since you've seen Carlene, so I wanted to make sure everything is okay. Then she spies the broken glass in front of my feet. What happened? I wasn't expecting anyone to come in, and I got freaked out. Mom presses her lips together as she heads across the room to grab the broom and dustpan. I wanted to let you know before you got home, but Carlene showed up unannounced in the middle of an appointment. I couldn't get away. It's a broken glass, Aunt Carlene says, raising an eyebrow. Nobody died. She tries to take the broom from my mother, but Mom shakes her head and motions for me to get out of the way as she sweeps up the wet shards. I don't think they've seen each other in years either, but they don't look so happy to be reunited. They're not close. Maybe my aunt doesn't know her well enough to understand how much Mom values planning and order. Don't walk barefoot in here for a while, my mother says, after crouching to make sure she's gotten every piece that she can see. She tosses the broken glass into the trash can and leans the broom against the wall. She looks at Aunt Carlene. I also wanted to make sure you're settling in okay. Should I have Raymond stop anywhere on the way home? I'm settling in just fine. I don't need anything, Aunt Carlene says. I'm actually going to lie down for a while. I had a long day on the train. My mother's lips are still pursed, but some of the tension leaves her body. We'll wake you for dinner. Wake me up in time to help, my aunt says over her shoulder. I get a fresh glass from the cupboard and pour more water, then sit down at the kitchen table. Once the door to Mimi's room clicks closed, Mom joins me. She sighs, running a hand over her twist out. I didn't know she was coming. Yeah, I kind of gathered that. I watch her. Are you okay? Oh, I'm fine, Birdie. Just tired. She pats my hand. You okay with her staying here for a while? Sure. I shrug. I don't remember her at all, but she seems okay. And Mimi's not coming home this summer, right? Right. Okay. Good. Mom smiles. She's going to work in the shop? We could use another braider, but she has to be licensed, and that takes a lot of hours. I don't know if she'll be here that long. She said she taught you everything you know about hair. Mom's face drops so fast it makes me laugh. Oh, she did? We'll see how much she remembers after. What? I prompt her. She shakes her head. Nothing. She's just been out of the game for a while. Mom? Are you okay with her being here? Carlene is family, she says in a voice that doesn't match her face. Of course I am.
Brandy,
Jade.
congratulations. It's your 4th book.
Thank you.
Is that nuts?
Yeah, I don't know. Who's writing these? I don't know.
I don't know. As someone who has only written 1 book, I feel like I have a lot of questions
One
about
great
this.
book.
But still. But you know what I am the most curious about, actually, is... Okay, so now that you have gone through that process 4 times at least, of kind of like having an idea bubble up in your brain and thinking, okay, this is it. I'm going to like go all in on this. Has it been different every time? Has it felt the same every time? Like, is there a moment where you're like, oh yeah, that's how I know, like, this is worth pursuing?
There is, but I feel like my writing process is like so esoteric. It's so hard for me to say.
What do you mean?
Just kind of like, I don't know. There's a lot of writers here. I don't know if anyone else feels like this. When you write, do you just kind of black out? Does anyone ever feel that way? Okay,
No,
and I'll
I
just be
wish I felt that
You
way.
don't feel that way?
It
So
seems
like,
so-
I'll look back and
so
be
much
like,
easier.
who wrote that? Like, really?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. I don't know. For me, usually, I'm not big on plot. I would write books without any plot if I could get away with it, and if you all would still buy them. So it usually starts with a character, but with this one, I don't know. It's weird. It started with me wanting to talk about addiction, but then I'm not like an issues writer. So like for me, it's like if I'm writing about an issue, it's going to be like really gray area. Like there's no right answer.
Well, but what was the moment of like, because I'm sure you have other ideas kind of come to mind, and then you discard them or you pursue them a little bit and kind of, you know, feel like they're not necessarily worth it.
So it's probably when the right character comes into the story. And then this one, I think it was the aunt. When I realized, like, what was going on there.
Yeah.
Who has the addiction problem.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, I think that's when it started to, like, click with me.
Yeah. And, you know, hearing you read the introduction out loud, really kind of reminded me of how good that setup is, because we get to see kind of all of these little tensions, like, all play out in these really delicious ways, like, as the book unfolds. And I don't know, I'm interested in, okay, so you don't plot.
No. No, not until I'm forced. Yes, by an editor.
Okay.
Or my agent, really.
Okay. So then is it all sort of in the, like, character conflict then?
Yeah. It's sort of like, what is this character going through? I will say, like, most of my books are coming of age, so, you know, it's going to be sort of in that vein. So it's, like, kind of this thing that's going to propel the character into sort of a new part of their life.
Okay.
But I guess I look at them as sort of slice of life. Like, what are the issues you're going with at this moment? Like, what I was going through at 16 was often, like, different from what I was going through, like, at 16 and a half, you know? It's so I really like honing in on those specific moments and seeing, like, what issues are plaguing this person right then.
Interesting. Well, I feel like one of the other things that I found really interesting about this is the two main characters in Dove or Birdie. Yeah. If you want to call her by her nickname. Yeah. In Birdie's life do you want to tell us a little bit about the boy that she likes?
Yeah.
Her boyfriend,
actually.
Yeah,
they're like...
It's a requited love.
Yes. At one point, like, not to get too far into, like, the editing process, which nobody really wants to hear about, but my editor was like, they should just be together. Like, he's
weren't
just
together
her boyfriend
at one point.
They they were, but she was like, let's just declare it on the, like, they were like being very like wishy-washy teenagers about it, just like we're like a thing, but we're not a thing, or also like 40-year-olds, I think, also. So in my experience, so yeah, she was like, just have them. So yes, he is her boyfriend, not a secret, and Booker is like a complicated guy. He's like a big black dude, like, used to play football, like, definitely like a kind of guy you would look at and judge immediately, one way or the other, probably assume some things about him. He's been in some trouble with the law. He was in juvie for a while. A lot of family stuff. His mom got sick and passed away, and so he's been dealing with a lot of stuff, but he's like a good, sweet guy. I just wanted to finally give one of my protagonists like a nice guy. It's like no cheating, like, everybody's happy.
Yeah. We write the things that we want into being. But yeah, I found it really interesting that the two kind of new people in Birdie's life, right? Her aunt, who's dealing with this addiction problem that she's essentially overcome, and she's kind of... I actually realize I don't have a lot of good language on how to talk about addiction. But I guess, so if I'm kind of mischaracterizing, let me know. But essentially, she's been in recovery, she's overcome it, and then, but of course, she still, you know, goes to meetings and kind of struggles with things. And then you have her boyfriend, who's also really dealing with this past, and they're both people who really need second chances.
Yes.
And she's the one who kind of gives them these second chances. And I always wonder, like, reading it and seeing that, is that just very English majory of me, or is it something that you, like, thought about a lot?
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
it's funny, again, because it's, like, something I didn't realize until after.
Okay.
And I read it, and it was, like, in copy edits, and I was like, wait, there's a theme here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what helps me figure out my books a lot is Alana K. Arnold, Prince Honor Award-winning Alana K. Arnold, sitting in the front row. But we teach together at Hamlin, and we talk a lot about our work and our processes. And so, like, we'll do a presentation or something, and then I'll text her, like, a week later and be like, oh my God, I just realized this thing we were talking about. I did that in my book. And I had no idea at the time. So I don't know if it's not quite intentional. But I guess if it just makes sense to my character, then it all sort of comes together.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But the other thing that I thought was interesting about that is that it kind of turns out that, like, what I enjoyed the most about this book was that, and I think this actually is the case with almost all fiction, is that the point of reading these made-up stories about make-believe people is that we kind of, when you see these people change slowly, it kind of helps you, like, understand human nature a little bit more, right? And kind of helps you understand, like, the ways that you relate to the world. And I feel like with all of these people, with all of these characters, they really changed in ways that I found really satisfying that I didn't expect, and that all involved Birdie kind of, like, being willing to see them a little differently.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
interesting.
just really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think another thing thinking about the family part is that, you know, my mom has 12 siblings, and so I'll hear her talk about,
Wait,
again.
stop.
Yes. Yes. My mom has 12 brothers
Wow.
and sisters. My dad has 9.
All right. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's a big family. So there's always some drama going on. Like,
Yeah.
constantly. There's
Yeah.
always something. If I'm not telling my mom about something I saw on Facebook, she's telling me about a phone call she had. You know, it's constant. But, like, I'll hear her talk about her siblings or, you know, our other family members. And it's sort of like sometimes she can't get out of, like, how she saw them 20 or 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so,
that's
you know what I
interesting.
mean? And I didn't,
Yeah.
again, not intentional, but just thinking
Yeah.
about it, it's like she is a forgiving person. She doesn't necessarily have that history with
Right.
people yet because she's 16. So I think that's also, like, a really nice space to be in.
Right. Do you feel like knowing that makes you do things differently in your own life?
No.
Like, you're still just as unforgiving as you would be if you weren't a novelist at all.
Right. No, I mean, I think to write, you know, novels in the first place and spend time with these made-up people as we do,
Yeah.
I think you have to have a certain level of empathy.
Right.
And I listened to, I edit a lot of articles about actors, and, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts with actors. And, you know, I hear them talk about, like, how they relate to their characters, and so sometimes they're playing, like, a really horrible character, but they're like, you know, you still have to have some respect or some empathy for this person you're playing.
Yeah.
You can't play the character otherwise.
Right.
And I feel that way about writing.
Yeah.
Even, like, the worst
so
people in my
agree.
books, I'm like, I still kind of love them. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise there's not, like, I feel like the reader is not going to kind of latch on in any way if you don't actually love the character.
'Cause it's like starting out with a judgment that you're then putting on the page.
Right.
And other people are going to pick up on that, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Was it hard to find love for any of these guys?
No, these are probably, like,
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite characters I've written. I love every
Really?
single person in
That's
this book.
amazing.
Yeah, I
Oh.
even had to cut someone, and it was
Killed
fine.
them.
But yeah, I did have to cut them out. But then I expanded another one and loved him too. And yeah,
Aw, wait, who got expanded?
there was a friend that got cut. She was not doing anything, so then the ex-boyfriend got bumped up, and
Oh.
he got a bigger
Oh.
role.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
You know, I
good.
find that so interesting. Okay, I know that in some ways conversations about editing are not that exciting unless you've been edited a lot. So, and I know a lot of the people in here are writers. So I will say that I really find that often the last minute character change is the best thing.
Right.
Right?
Like
Like,
the
I
key
love
to
that.
unlocking
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
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 Did you kill any characters?
I didn't kill any characters, but I had a big character expansion.
Okay.
Yeah, that it wasn't even that there was, like, so much extra material for. It was the younger sister in my book, in case anyone's read it. It wasn't so much that there was so much extra material about her. It was more that I really worked to make the reader more empathetic towards her. You know, and
Yeah.
I think that that is often the thing that changes.
Well, and that's what it sounds like I
Yeah,
did with that character
totally.
too. He was just, like, kind of a dick, honestly.
Yeah,
Like, can we, like,
exactly.
give him some depth? Like,
Yeah, and
yeah.
we get so much more by like kind of feeling for
yeah,
him.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the other thing that I really enjoyed in this book, okay, so you have two moments. One where Birdie just kind of casually talks about kind of what it literally physically feels like to get braids, and then another moment where where her aunt notices that her doctor, or where she tells her aunt that her doctor was black. And I feel like, you know, we talk so much about representation and how important it is to have diverse voices, et cetera. And I think that, like one of the most important things is not writing about issues, right? It's not writing about like Black women in medicine or,
Right.
you know, or issues of Black hair, which have been obviously written about a ton. And it's not that it's not important to write about that, but I think it is also so important to have these like everyday details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. To me, that's what really brings you into like the culture, the community of somebody that you don't know something about. Even things like, I remember in my first book, I mentioned like the mom wearing like a headscarf to sleep. And I think it was my mom who was like, oh my God, that was such a great detail. And it's like, yeah, that is something that is pretty particular to the Black community or people with, you know, extra curly hair. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like that. I was talking to another author, Renee Watson, recently, and she grew up in Portland, and now she lives in Harlem. And we were talking, you know, I grew up in Missouri, and now I live out here. And so we have all these sort of different experiences on different sides of the country. But she was like, it's so interesting. She's like, you know, when I read your work, I see like these things, and it's like we're all so different, but like there's still these things that make us Black, like that we only know, like no matter what, you grew up at a different time, you came from a different region, like all this stuff, but it is still so recognizable.
Well, yes, and also I think the reason why the doctor part really stood out to me is because I think just growing up as a person of color in America, you notice when someone who looks like you is doing anything. Like I would say at age 16 could have told you every single like half Asian, because there were no full Asian actors on TV. Like I could have told you anybody in any show, who, even if I didn't watch the show, I still like knew they were there.
Yeah, it's that thing, especially growing up when we did like 80s, 90s, like it was so fewer choices than today. And I remember knowing like, or when a commercial came on with like a Black person, like calling to my mom, there's a Black girl on TV. Like it was literally what it was like in the 80s in Missouri, like growing up and just like not seeing yourself. So yeah, like I kind of wanted that moment where she comes in and she's like, oh, my doctor is Black. And then she's like, oh, I was surprised, but like my dad's a Black doctor too, but it's still surprising to see. It's like one of those things that you notice, like, I don't know, it's just not that common. I've never had a Black doctor, so. I mean, I could probably change that. But if anybody knows, give me some recommendations after.
Any gynecologist recommendations out there, let us know. So has the way that you have approached kind of conversation about race or anything like that changed over the course of the 4 books?
Yeah.
I mean, the world has kind of changed. Like, even in these 3 or 4 years, I feel like the world has changed a little bit.
Well, it's funny. I was hanging out with, I'm like calling everybody out all the time at these things. Sorry. I was talking to my friend Shannon a few weeks ago, and we were talking about politics, and she was like, you never used to talk about politics. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I didn't even remember. But then I thought about it, and I was like, I used to just be like, nope, not doing it, just shutting down. I think part of that was because I grew up in such a conservative area, you know, in Missouri. We all know what Missouri's up to. It's typically nothing good. And sorry, I can say that I'm from there. But so I think it's like from growing up in a place like that where you knew a lot of times if you were on more of a liberal side of things.
Right.
You weren't really, it was
Keep quiet.
quite contentious. It was easier to stay quiet. Plus, there was never usually anyone who looked like me and who had the same experiences that was around. So there was nobody to back me up. But I think I've definitely gotten much more comfortable just talking about all of it in the last few years, writing about it. My first book is probably the one that least explores race, but it still mentions a few things in there. But I've gotten more comfortable probably because I've also gotten older. But I think it's important to put books out so that, you know, I didn't have these kinds of books when I was a kid. And so I think it's really important to put them out, not, again, with a message of what to do and what's right or wrong, but just that they have this representation in front of them and they know, like, they have the language for things now that I didn't have. I want to put that in books so people who are growing up similar to how I grew up, like, no, these feelings are normal and you can say this stuff and that's not okay that that person said that to you. And,
that's great. Wait, so tell us a little bit about, like, okay, I feel like often in YA, in the world of YA literature, we have a lot of conversations with adults. And I'm curious, like, have you gotten responses from teenagers that are like unexpected for you, or I'm just curious about some of your like standout interactions.
I don't know. spend a lot of time with teenagers. I don't have kids, and I don't know. So most of the teens I see are on television. It's very realistic because they're usually like 26 playing like a 14-year-old.
And gorgeous.
Fine. Yeah, exactly. No acne anywhere.
Right.
But yeah, I've been doing, more school visits, things like that. And I had this really great school visit in East Palo Alto when we were up there in January. I had a great school visit there, and so it was a charter school, and so there were some day students. It was mostly day students, and then some kids who were boarders also.
Okay.
And one of the kids, they had read Little and Lion, and one of the kids just like raised his hand, and he was like, "I just want to know how you got this so right." And I was like, "Oh my God, well my job here is done." It was like a mic drop moment, because it's just like I haven't, I'm 40. I've not been a teenager in a very long time. I don't actually know how this feels, but he was like, he like almost couldn't express himself. He's like, "You just got it so right." I know, and I was like trying not to melt into a complete puddle. But it's really nice. I think they're really forgiving. You see a lot of reviews that say like, "Well, it was a little too juvenile for me," and it's like, "Well, you're a 40-year-old woman, Right. Yeah, you wouldn't react like that. But how would you have reacted when you were 14, 15, 16? So it's really nice to hear them say that you get it right, and that you sort of understand that storm of emotions that they're like going through, and it's a lot. I don't miss I liked being a teenager, but I don't miss it.
Yeah. I mean just that like uncontrollable kind of interior life.
Yeah. They're funny though. They will like ask you anything, like how much. I mean, you all know how much money do you make? Like my favorite was one kid at another school visit was like, "Are you famous?" And I was like,
I mean, I've been wondering the same thing.
Yeah, right. I was like, "Had you heard of me before today?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "There's your answer. Next question."
That's a good answer, but I would still say you're famous. It
Yeah.
counts.
Oh, thank you. In your mind.
Wait, so when did you start teaching?
Last summer. Thank you. I know my brain has shut off. July 2018. Yes.
And how does that affect your writing?
It's hard sometimes to juggle. But it's also been, as hard as it is, it's so rewarding because it's a low residency. For anyone who doesn't know, I teach in a low residency MFA program at Hamlin University. It's in St. Paul. And so we go out there twice a year, typically in January and in July for 10 days. And you're just so like, fun. It's like summer camp. It is. That's what they told me before I started. And I was like, I never went to camp. I don't know. Like, what is that like?
Right.
It is. It's incredible. But it's just like an immersion of 10 days of just talking about craft and books. And it is like, you're so exhausted. You're on for like me, like hiding in my apartment all the time, like never seeing anyone. And then like being in front, like on for 12 hours a day. It's like a huge change. You're exhausted. I remember like being like, I want to die after like my third day because it was just so hard.
Right.
But it's so rewarding. You learn so much from your fellow instructors, and from the students too.
But has it changed your
my
approach at all or anything?
I think it helps me look at my own writing like more analytically almost.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I
don't know. I'm looking at aspects of craft that I was like, I know I did that. I don't know how I did it. Now I'm sort of realizing how I do stuff because I have to sometimes explain how I did stuff.
Yeah.
And or tell students this is what you need to do.
Right.
And this is why. Or not, not tell them what to do, but here's how you may want to approach this. Here's some questions about this to get you to where you need to be. Yeah. So I think it's just looking at it in a way that I had never looked, because I don't have an MFA, I'm self-taught, so it helps me look at things in a different way, I think, and to be able to articulate it better, which is nice.
Well, hopefully you guys will also have some questions that help Brandy look at her life in a different way. Does anyone have any pressing inquiries? Zan Romanoff,
First hand up.
YA author in the front row.
Yeah. Oh, no. You could have texted me this.
No.
Just kidding.
You've said several times in conversations that we've had that the portrayal of diction in this book was in part inspired by the Real Housewives of New York.
What? Okay, because I completely forgot about this. So if you've heard me not mention this, it's not on purpose. I talk about Housewives constantly. I love it. It's one of my favorite things in life. It's on all the time at my house. Yeah, so they're in Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I really hope nobody here is related to them or knows them. But they're actresses. It's fine. They've been out in the world since the 70s. It's public figures. But there is this pair of sisters who just have a really, really contentious relationship. And one of them has struggles with addiction and has for a long time. And you see some of this really uncomfortable stuff on the show. It is really just hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like, I've had to, like, almost turn it off sometimes. I'm just like, this is so personal, and it's, like, so public. So, yeah, it was the Richards sisters' relationship was part of what inspired, like, the sister relationship. Yeah, if anybody wants to go watch that, just watch, like, seasons, like, 1 through 5 of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But I think they really showed sort of the ugly parts of it, which kind of inspired me to just be like, okay, you know, it's, again, coming from a family that sort of glosses over everything and is like, it's fine, it's fine. I kind of wanted to show, like, no, these people are saying it's not fine. They don't actually really like each other that much, and they have, like, a long history of, like, uncomfortableness. Thank you.
That is amazing.
Love when I get to talk about housewives.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Me too.
And also, isn't that kind of a defense for those kinds of reality shows? That it like shows us, it
Yeah,
does sometimes
so.
show us actual reality.
I think so,
That we-
yeah. It may be like them in a specific place talking about it at a specific time, but it's
Sure.
like some of this stuff you could not make up. Like,
Yeah.
like
Those
the
are real
wine
relationships that
throwing
are
and- yeah.
very messy.
Yes.
And
Extremely.
terrible.
Awful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's great.
Anyone else?
Hi,
Robin.
Robin.
You have really beautiful book covers, and can you talk a little bit about the cover?
Agreed.
Yeah.
I love this cover.
Thank you for that question. So, for anyone who does not know, most authors do not get any say in their book covers. So, I am very lucky. I have loved every book cover I've had. This one, I loved. I think they're not up here, but
They should be.
well, they're
up there.
back there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Amina. Look at you, always working. So, I mean, you can just barely see, but if you have a copy of it, Finding Yvonne was my novel that came out last year, and that's the first one they hired the illustrator for, and then she went back and redid Little and Lion for the paperback, and so they're sort of, you know, you can tell they're all my books.
Cute, I like
they're
that.
related. So I loved those, and I was like, after Finding Yvonne, I was like, no way am I gonna like get a better cover than that, and then this dropped in my inbox and I screamed, like I literally like screamed at my desk. I think it's so beautiful. I think it's 2 Black women working on them. So it's been like an in-house cover designer at Little Brown, and then a Black woman illustrator artist named Erin Robinson. And I think they just really get it, you know, like when they were asking about like her hair, you know, they were like, okay, goddess braids, like which ones, like can you send us like a picture, you know, and then like just for her to just, it's just so beautiful. And the name necklace is sort of like, you know, a tradition in the Black community, and that was on the cover of Finding Yvonne. So I think it's just like they bring a little extra like something to it that maybe another team wouldn't necessarily be able to do. But I feel super fortunate to have these and to have books that, again, I didn't see when I was a kid. You know, never would I have seen a book cover like this. So it means a lot to have that out there. Yeah, thanks, Robin.
Yes.
Hi.
So you kind of started on this, but the theme of addiction is kind of where you were coming from. And it is something that's not particularly talked about in Black families. Why did you feel that it was important to explore that?
Yeah, I thought it was important to, the question was, why did I feel it was important to explore addiction in a Black family particularly? I just think for, like, Black people, there's a lot we don't talk about, right? Because it feels like, I mean, you know, pretty much the worst thing that could ever happen has happened, and it's been, you know, hundreds of years trying to get over that. And it's like, basically, the feeling in my family, at least, is like, we're strong people. Like, we've already been through the worst. Just suck it up. Like, anything bad that happens is kind of just like, suck it up. Or, like, that's not a problem that we pay that much attention to. And so growing up feeling like I couldn't talk about these things was really upsetting to me as someone who's, like, really honest and really likes to dig down. And, you know, if you know me, I don't like small talk. I'm just like immediately like, okay, what's your darkest secret? You know, like that's just like how I love to dig into issues and really talk about them. So for me, it was kind of therapeutic for me, not from I'm not writing from a personal point of view with this, but just it was important for me to sort of discuss it, to put that out there for anyone who might be feeling like it's not normal or this doesn't happen in Black families. I think it's just really important to have examples of like, this is happening and it's normal, and like this is how this family and this girl got through it, particularly. Yeah, thank you. Hi, Cherie.
You write contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying you wrote about addiction, but not from personal experience. What research did you need to do for this book,
Well,
if any?
hundreds of thousands of hours of Real Housewives. No, but that's a good question. I feel like the only book I've written so far that I did really targeted research on was Little and Lion, just because I didn't know enough about like the mechanics of like the mental illness that I was exploring. But most of the time, I really try to write about things that are already sort of at the back of my mind, that I've already read a lot about or watched a lot of, documentaries or talked to people a lot about. I have a lot of friends in my life whose families have dealt with addiction, so I think that was always sort of at the back of my head too, like sort of their examples and their experiences. So it's not based on any of those people or anything in particular, but yeah, I think for me, it has to be this thing that's sort of like digging at the back of my brain for like months and months, and I'm finally like, well, I just need to write about it, So it's something that I've been interested in a while and been doing sort of the research, not in a targeted way, just sort of like, yeah, not purposely. Yeah, thanks. Yes. Hi. My 5th book is out in March, so I do not get much of a break. That's my first middle grade novel, so I'm really excited. That's for younger readers. It is called The Only Black Girls in Town, inspired clearly by my upbringing, and it's set in a fictional town in the Central Coast of California, and I'm really excited about it. It's about two 12-year-old girls. Basically, it's what happens if you're the only black girl in town your age, and then another one moves in across the street. The cover did just come out for that. Yeah, thank you. I love it too. My 6th book is out July 7th. So if you haven't seen me this year, that's why. I have 2 books coming out next year. I don't know how that happened. That's a YA book called The Voting Booth. So that'll be out in July. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Okay, calm down,
Keep it
Sheree.
going.
I know. It's a lot.
Anyone else?
Hi, Shannon.
You have 2 separate sibling scenarios. You have the mom and the sister, and then the daughter
Yeah.
and her sister. Talk to me about the juxtaposition of those 2.
Yeah. So it's so funny. I don't have any sisters. My mom once asked me, "Do you wish you had sisters?" And I was like, "Well, that's not up to me." Like, you didn't do the work to make that happen.
Yeah.
But I have 4 brothers, right? So I have siblings. But I don't know what it's like to have a sister. But I find, people who have sisters, you have a sister. And I really enjoy talking to people who have sisters. It's just such a different dynamic. I think I would have been bad at having a sister, to be honest. Like, I love my female friends and female friendships so much, but I think I would have been a monster to a sister, honestly.
But do you feel like those sort of the kind of stereotypical sister relationship things, do you feel like they don't come up in sister-brother relationships?
They do. It's just that, I don't know, like, my brothers don't talk, so they're just, like, not in touch with their emotions. Well,
Okay.
I have 3 very younger brothers from my dad's second marriage, so they're, like, in their mid-20s. They're just, like, a different, they're just very young, and I didn't really grow up with them. My older brother is 6 years older than me. We're very, very different people. He's just always sort of been like an old man. Like when he's 6 years older than me. So when he turned 40 6 years ago, I was like, happy birthday. Like, how does it feel? And he was like, I felt this age since I was 8. And I was like, all right, well, cool. Great. Happy birthday. But I feel like all sibling relationships are fraught. But with those relationships, sorry, this is a really long answer to a simple question. I don't know, I really wanted to, I hear my mom talk about her sisters a lot too, and she has such different relationships with each of them, and so I really wanted to kind of explore that, and also have this older sister who's supportive, but is also like I'm watching you, which, you know, because I would want someone to watch out for me, too. And then having the moms be like, they've just always had a fraught relationship because her sister's been dealing with addiction since they were teenagers. So I really just kind of wanted to juxtapose those against each other, but also, like, it's not like Mimi's the older sister who's just like, anything goes. Like, she's still watching her, and it's kind of like a mom, you know, relationship at sometimes, so.
I think seeing the other sister relationship also makes the, you know, in the relationship between her mom and her aunt, the fact that the trust between them has eroded so much, and that really feels like such a hallmark of kind of when there is one person in a relationship dealing with addiction, it seems like that is a thing that you can kind of never get back. And but Birdie and Mimi, like, no matter what happens, like, they have that.
And I think sort of even them seeing the way it's played out with their mom and Aunt Carlene, they're sort of like, well, you know,
let's avoid.
I think they think it consciously like that. But I mean, there's a line, I think, where I was just reading this the other day, and she said, you know, Mimi's always been the person closest to me. It's always been easier to work with her than against her. Was sort of like, you know, like her idea of their relationship. So I wouldn't say my brother and I have that. Like, it's not easier to work with him.
It's easier to never sit side by side silently.
Yeah. Or just argue just constantly. 7 hours.
You know, you said you didn't draw on any personal experience with addiction, but what personal experiences do you feel like you did draw on to kind of make those emotions really, like, ring true?
I think just family, just seeing all those different relationships, and seeing how that can change, sort of. So that's really the only thing I sort of really relate to her with is, like, not that family, but just having, like, sort of this close family with a lot of things going on, sort of. And then, you know, relating to her as a black girl, for sure, you know, I was the black girl, relating to her that way, I think. Yeah, because it all comes back to the character for me. So if the character isn't, like, strong, if they don't feel like a real person, I can't find my way in there.
Yeah. Neither can the reader. Okay.
Do you know what your endings are going to be? And at what point
Oh, my God. Do I know what my endings are going to be? I never know what my endings are going to be.
Like, until when? Until right when you write it? Or until, like, a week before you write it?
Right. Probably, like, I mean, with this one, I sort of knew what the ending would be, like the climax, I guess, sort of, is what I knew. But no, I have a lot of trouble with my endings. I guess a lot of times they don't stay from when I first turn it in. Like, my editors just always kind of like, no. Like, I just want them to be, like, more open-ended, but, you know, you're writing about teens and 14s, and so I, again, don't think everything should be wrapped up in a bow. Like, I refuse to do that, but they do typically want, like, a sense of hope at the end, and I'm okay with that, too, you know.
With giving people some hope in the
Like,
world.
it's fine, I guess. It's fine. Yeah, so my endings are just kind of crapshoot, honestly. I think this one was the most, like, solidly where I felt like I knew how it was going to end. And it was fun to write, too. It wasn't painful like it normally is.
Well, I feel like a question about endings is an excellent question to end on.
There you go.
Thank you for helping us wrap it up in about.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.